What's going on, everyone? It's Mike back again, and I said we'd be getting regular videos where you've got one. It might be late at night, but you are getting regular content, and this is just like a little bit of a recap, a little bit of a Rumour Mill video. I completely stole the name Rumour Mill from One Leeds from Connor. Make sure you go and hit the like button and subscribe to his channel. He's a friend of mine, so I'm sure he's not going to mind. But this is just a little bit of a recap of some of the news and some of the things that have been mentioned over the last 24 hours at Everton. Amadou and Onana releases a bit of a statement, a bit of an emotional message to Everton fans. You know, he's been criticised this season, Onana, for sometimes not quite being as good as the hype around him. So, you know, when Onana goes down, he lifts his hands up, he gets the fans going. You know, he's been criticised as a little bit of a cheerleader. I think Onana has got bags of potential. I think it's very easy to write off young players these days. You know, we've done it before. We've done it with lots of young players. And, you know, was we expecting someone so young with so much, with such a big price tag on his shoulders to be excellent this season? I'd probably argue not. You'd probably expect him to grow into the role. But I think he's had a difficult season. But you almost have got to expect that. You know, does he use all of his attributes wisely? I think he could probably ball carry better. I think he's got a better passing range than he's shown. You know, we did see the last goal against Brighton where he passes through the channel. So I think Onana's got something. I just think he needs to show it now. There is rumours that he could go. You know, people are saying between 50 and 60 million. I don't know if a club pays that right now. And I'm not saying he's not a good player. You know, I'm not saying that. I'm just thinking he's very young. He's raw. And I think people will want to see how he progresses. Because, you know, 38 million we paid for him. It's a lot of money. And it's an amount of money that could go either way. You know, he could have a bad season next season and then be worth nowhere near 38 million. You know, we've seen that with players like Kabami, for example, where we've spent £25 million on a player. He's been injured within 2 games and his value now, well, he's walking out the door. His agent keeps talking. We'll mention that in a minute. So, I'm on the fence about Onana. I like how he talks. I like how he's open about his emotion. I think that's really important for a footballer to be that. I think he connects well with fans, but I think you can overdo it, and I think he is guilty of doing that sometimes. So, my argument would be, instead of raising your hands and being too overdramatic, maybe, my argument would be, show it on the pitch. You know, do it on the pitch, deliver on the pitch. You know, whether it's scoring a goal, making a good tackle, which we have seen him put in decent challenges this season. He's made some really decent tackles. I think I'd like to see more of it, if I'm being completely frank. And I think we need to. Do I think he goes? I don't know. Everton's deal with Stake.com is also potentially up in the air. Obviously, there is a sponsorship issue with the Premier League around betting companies and gambling companies. And Stake is a weird company in the fact that it is a betting company. But it's a weird way of doing it in terms of money and value, etc, etc, etc. I, for one, have no issue with Everton not being sponsored by a gambling company. But I also do appreciate that sport and gambling do come hand in hand. You know, we're asking players to be role models, absolutely. But then, you know, we're taking all of the elements out of going to the game, out of it. You know, it started years ago with taking alcohol away from the seats. You know, you no longer can take alcohol to your seat, which you still can in other sports like rugby and cricket, for example. You know, so they deneutralise that. Now they're talking about taking betting out. And although I'm not against it, I'm certainly not against it at all. And having been someone that has had issues in the past with gambling, etc., I'm all for it, but I do also think that it can take away from the game a little bit. But then also, look, you know, you can still go on your apps, your Bet365s and your Paddy Power and your whatever apps you use, and you can still bet on a game of football. So I suppose you don't need to promote that through shirts, do you really? And I get that. People make their own choice if they want to, you know, spend a fiver or a tenner or £100 or £1,000 and they win or they lose. It's their choice. But I just think I'm really on the fence as to how effective it will be, if I'm being honest, because I just don't see how it doesn't promote. You know what? The other thing, you know, saying things like the Barclays Premier League, you know, is promoting things like a bank. Is that much better? You know, is that much better when the interest rate for a mortgage is 4.5% or 5.5%, but yet your savings you're getting 1.75%? And I know I'm going off in the tangent, but your point is, you could probably invest your money in better places than a bank. You know, I don't know. I don't know if banning gambling on shirts is going to do much, but I'm not against it. As I say, I've got my personal history, and that's why I'm not against it. Onana has come out and said that he loves the place. And I do think that's quite nice to know that you've got a player that wants to play for the football team. And we have had players in the past of decent quality that have wanted to play for Everton. Charlison, James Rodriguez has come out and said it. So, yeah. I personally think Onana might stay. Everton obviously have been linked with Victor Gyökeres or Gyökeres. The Coventry City striker. I think he scored about 15, 16 goals in the Championship last season, but he's got all the attributes to score more. He's got a bit of pace. He's got the physicality. He can shoot with both feet. He's got a decent, you know, header on him. He's a very capable player. So I would be all up for signing him, but I also don't think he can be your only striker. You know, Calvert-Lewin's been injured, but most big teams have probably 2 or 3 players that can rely on to get goals, and Everton haven't really had that for a long time. You know, I remember the days when, you know, there was Andrew Johnson or Yakubu, or, you know, you go a few years later, you've got Haruna Kone, who scored 10 goals, I think, for Wigan one season, signs for Everton. In the same year, we have Lukaku, and then I think the season after we signed Samuel Eto'o. You know, I think you need goal scorers, and there isn't enough in this team. And I don't think I personally would be prepared to put all my faith in a Championship bought striker, albeit a striker that I rate highly. I just think the Premier League's such a step up. I think you probably need 2 strikers. I made a joke earlier about bringing in a player like Mikel Antonio. You know, a lot of Everton fans would be against that, and I get it, but he has experience, can hold up the ball, and can probably educate someone like Ellie Sims. You know, I don't think he'd cost you loads of money. I don't think West Ham would be particularly against losing him, but I do think he could add value for a season or two. Don't get me wrong, I'm not bothered if we don't sign him. It's just a name that I was throwing out there. I think Everton need 2 very good strikers, but don't all teams. Neil Maupay will leave. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Dobbin. Interesting to see what they do with Sims. And it'll be interesting to see what they do with Calvert-Lewin, because his injuries clearly hinder how much he can play for Everton. And, you know, Sean Dyche did this big plan on getting him fit, and meaning that he would stay fit, yet he breaks down the game second to last in the season. So yeah, I have concerns about the future of DCL as well. I actually have concerns about DCL in general, because it must have a real significant mental effect on him. So there you go. Everton have also been linked with £25 million rated El Bala Torre, Almeria centre forward, 6'1". He's done alright, but he's scored 1 goal and got 0 assists No, sorry, that's no Maupay, so that's a complete waste of time. He scored 6 goals and got 2 assists in the Liga. Well, when you compare that against Neil Maupay, which I've just read the stats for, it's abundantly obvious that the guy's not got it. My big thing with this is potentially buying players like Onana who have got potential but don't deliver it. And we've seen it with Moise Keane. We've seen it with Amadou, albeit I still think Amadou, the way he was treated by Sam Allardyce, was a joke. And I actually thought there was a player in there. So, for me, in my opinion, I'd just be worried about signing more talent. I think we need a player that is proven, goal scorer, knows where the net is. That's personally what I think we should do, if I'm being honest. Everton have also been linked with Aberdeen striker Duck. I'm not sold on that, if I'm being honest. Nilsson Konku looks like he may be leaving. It looks like his loan spell at Saint Etienne has come to an end. He had a bit of a purple patch in the season, but one of the issues with the deal was Saint Etienne can buy him and then just sell him, which is very similar to what Everton could do with Connor Cody. They could buy him from Wolves and sell him for more. Everton don't work like that, so it'll be interesting to see how they deal with that. Everton have also been linked with. I mean, this is the thing with Everton. They get linked with loads of players. So we've been linked with Yuri Alberto, who is a Corinthian striker. Now he may not even get a work permit. So, you know, we're being linked with players just for the sake of namesake. We've been linked with RB Leipzig midfielder Tom Grob. Sky Sports Germany are reporting. Again, it's just a name, and this is what will happen. Everton will get linked with loads and loads and loads of players. So, yeah, we'll see. Another thing I want to talk about is Ian Wright. Ian Wright has come out and essentially said Everton won't move forward unless the board at Everton go, change, develop. Now, we all have rumours that MSP are potentially interested in investing with Everton. We've heard that it would be sort of like a loan with the opportunity to dilute that loan into shares, and that would be their stake in the club, etc. I don't like the deal. I'd much rather them come in, buy 25% of the club as shareholders, and have a little bit more skin in the game rather than a loan with interest paying. I'd much rather them just buy some of the club. I have real issues with these loan to buy schemes, essentially. You know, and I know Moshiri did it for part of his loan with Everton. You know, I think he bought his 49.9% stake, and then I think the next bit up to 72% was his loan to buy, which he then decided to do, and then he decided to invest more, and I think now he owns 96% or whatever it is of the club. But the simple fact of the matter is, I don't think it works, because this club is so far gone in terms of the leadership at the board level. I think it needs to change. I think it completely needs to change. And, you know, we could sit here all day long and talk about Denise and talk about Sharp, Ingalls, Kenwright, Moshiri, but I don't rate any of them. So for me, I just love a fresh start. You know, these guys have clearly got a bit about them. They were interested in buying Spurs, so they've clearly got something. So for me, I'd be all over that. I'd be absolutely all over them taking control of the club. And I know people will say, oh yeah, it's Americans, and you know, they're trying to franchise the team, and you've seen it with Spurs, etc. But Everton have got to increase their commercial value. You know, you have people like the Esk on Twitter, you've got financial analysts, you've got the Swiss paper that always does parts, and they speak about Everton quite a lot. A lot needs to change commercially at Everton, and at the minute, it just doesn't. It just doesn't. And while Everton are still in this sort of dormant state of not being able to do things, financial fair play looming over their head, you know, is it a points deduction? What's going to happen? You know, is Everton going to get the same punishment as City, etc., etc., etc.? I just think a change is needed, and And for me, I honestly really wish, I just really wish that everything would change at board level. Ruben Vinagre has left. Obviously, his loan come to an end. And look, he said some pretty emotional things, basically saying that he was sad that he weren't involved more and that he wished he was. But I'm going to make a bit of an argument about this. I actually don't think he's a bad player. I remember him at Wolves. I remember him beating people, delivering balls. I remember him having pace, bit of skill. How he hasn't got in over Mykolenko for some of the season is beyond me. But the one thing I would say, if you're not going to play him, why waste a loan on him? You know, why waste a loan on him? It just doesn't make sense to me. You know, you can say that you used him as cover at left back, but then I remember the game where he doesn't even he stays on the bench and we play Ben Godfrey or Michael Keane or Seamus Coleman. I can't remember the game, but it's a joke. The ideology of Everton just wasting loans. They did it the season before with Anwar El Ghazi, and they've done the same with Ruben Vinagre this season. It just doesn't make sense. So yeah, I think that's a joke. Everton have been linked with Beto, a player that we've been linked with before as well. I think there's no legs in that either. To be honest, I just don't think. I just don't think there's any links in that. And another player that Everton have been linked with is Tammy Abraham. And I am telling you now, there's absolutely no way Tammy Abraham signs for Everton. Absolutely not. I mean, it's a ridiculous shout. We've been linked with 20-year-old Shay Charles from Manchester City, a player that I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know loads about, but apparently he's, again, young and highly rated. When are you going to buy players that are going to come into this team and not be young and highly rated and just hit the ground running? That, again, is an argument that I have about some of these players. I think Everton need to get some proven players in the door. I think they do. You know, some of the teams that have gone down, Southampton, I'd be all over Ward-Prowse. I'd be absolutely all over a goal-scoring midfielder, albeit free kicks and penalties. I don't care. You know, a goal threat is a goal threat. You know, I like Che Adams. I don't think he scores as many goals as he should, but he may have a reduced price tag and he's a good option. I actually really like Armstrong. I like Armstrong a lot. I think the lad in midfield, I think he's really good. I can't remember if they've got two, haven't they? But I think it's Adam Armstrong. And I really rate him. I think he's a very classy midfielder, but I think he needs a better team around him than Southampton. And I'm not saying Everton are that, but I think they could be that. I think we need pace. Sulemana, I think that would be a decent signing. Then you go over to Leicester. I'm not sitting here saying that Everton are going to sign Maddison or Harvey Barnes. I think Maddison is destined for Newcastle. I think Harvey Barnes is probably destined for a club like Spurs. But I would be all over that. I would be absolutely all over, you know, Harvey Barnes. I even like the Kieran Dewsbury Hall. I think they've got Castagna at left back. I think Everton should be all over that as well. You know, I think there's so many players that have gone down in these three teams this season that actually could walk into that Everton side. And I make no bones about it. I still think Everton had the 19th worst team in the league. I think Southampton picked it by just a little bit. But I think Leeds and Leicester had better teams. Just bottled it. Just didn't know how to deal with it. But it was Everton. Thankfully, come through at the end of the season, but my God, there was not much in it, and I would argue that Leicester have a better side than Everton. I even think Iheanacho as a Premier League player just probably doesn't score enough. So yeah, so that's that. Gabami wants to leave. Not bothered. I mean, he's come out and said that he's had a nightmare period at Everton. We already know. It's been a shame for him because actually, in the very few games he's played, at times he's looked decent. But I remember him making his debut and I weren't sold on him. And I certainly didn't think he replaced Garner. Then he got injured. Then he come back. Then he got injured again. Then he come back, got injured again. Then we see him again in pre-season. He looks alright. Plays a lovely through ball. Can't remember who he did. Was he? Who did he play that through ball to? Was it Kieran Dowell? I can't remember. Anyway, he plays a through ball to somebody. It's beautiful. I think he scores in pre-season as well. He looked alright. He starts a couple of games. He'd fall short. He just looks nowhere near the player that we thought we'd signed. So again, he goes. For me, I just don't think it works. And Everton will probably just get some decent wages off the books. You know, there's a lot of players that Dele Alli, Andre Gomez, Mina's gone, which is a shame in my opinion. I think I would have given Mina another year, maybe even a 2-year deal. But I think Gomez, Dele Alli, Gabami, Tom Davies, I think all 4 of those players need to go. I know some people have said about Seamus having a new deal because of his injuries, etc. I would give him a new deal, but I think very long and hard about the type of deal we give him at this point. So yeah, I'll give him a new deal. I think we need a new left back. So as I said, I mentioned that we need a rebuild in midfield. I think James Garner looks a hell of a player. I'd be tempted to build the midfield around him. I think we need wingers. I think we need a couple of wingers. Zaha apparently is available. I'm not saying Everton are going to go and sign him, but he's certainly not the Zaha he was 5 years ago, especially now that they've got Eze, who is unbelievable, by the way. And we need 2 strikers. So this team need a whole rebuild, and there's so many players that we've been linked with that, you know, I can't go through them all, if I'm being honest. So yeah, look, that's your video. We'll go through the news on most days if we can, and we'll see what changes over the coming weeks. But you know what will be one consistent is we can talk about all these players as much as we like. We can talk about how Everton need to develop as much as we like. But the simple fact of the matter is, until this changes at board level, I actually don't see Everton changing much at all. So, guys, I'm leaving it there. Have a fantastic evening. I know it's late, but hopefully you watch this before you go to bed. Keep smiling, up the toffees. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. Peace.